The American success story you see out your car window might just be the biggest lie in modern engineering. Wide lanes and picture-perfect suburbs are hiding the design flaw that makes American cities fragile. It's quietly and cruelly draining your wealth and your freedom. While you think you're living at the peak of infrastructure, the design flaw that makes American cities fragile acts like a financial termite, eating away at your city's foundation and your own financial future. It's an invisible trap, a systemic calculation error that puts your assets on a dangerous, shaky tightrope. If you're the kind of man who prizes his family's security and wants to understand the real gears moving this country, subscribe to the channel right now. Master the technical knowledge they aren't telling you, so you can protect your wallet and your community, and help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers to strengthen this brotherhood of engineering and urban intelligence. Topic 1. The illusion of wealth and post-war expansion. You know that spark in the eye every American guy gets when he sees a new subdivision popping up with wide streets and manicured lawns? Well, my friend, what most people see as the pinnacle of success is actually hiding a financial quicksand foundation that very few stop to analyze. Post-war, we bought into the idea that sprawling out horizontally was the road to prosperity, but we totally forgot to check the maintenance bill that would land on our kids' laps decades later. It's like dumping all your capital into a flashy imported luxury car, but not having a single cent tucked away to change the tires or the oil once the mileage starts stacking up. If you take a hard look at cities like Phoenix or Houston, you'll see miles of asphalt and sewer pipes serving just a handful of houses, which creates a rock-bottom revenue density for the municipality. Imagine trying to run a business where you're spending $1,000 on logistics just to deliver a $10 product. Any engineer or businessman knows that math simply doesn't move the needle in the long run. That's exactly why so many of these suburbs, which look flawless today, start showing literal and figurative cracks the moment the initial federal subsidies dry up and reality comes knocking at the door. To make sure you don't fall into this trap, I highly recommend picking up Strong Towns, A Bottom-Up Revolution to Build American Prosperity by Charles Marin. He breaks down exactly how this illusion was built right under our feet. You can start by checking out your own city's fiscal map on the Urban 3 website. If the historic downtown has footed the bill for the fringe neighborhoods, you're living in a fragile system. It's fascinating and honestly a bit chilling to realize that the aesthetic of wealth is often what's silently draining the resilience of our communities. And when this infrastructure actually starts to give out, the headache goes way beyond just a simple pothole in the road. Topic 2. The infrastructure time bomb. Imagine you're running a trucking fleet, but instead of setting aside profits for maintenance, you're using the cash from new contracts just to patch up the old rigs that are already breaking down. That is exactly how many American cities operate today. It's a cycle experts call an urban Ponzi scheme, where new growth is used to cover the maintenance debts of the old growth. An engineer looking at the dashboard of these cities sees red warning lights flashing everywhere because the infrastructure buried 40 years ago is reaching the end of its lifespan all at once. It's not just about looks. It's a scheduled collapse of pipes, bridges, and roads that simply don't have a rainy day fund for reconstruction. For a man who puts a premium on his family's safety and his own net worth, grasping this is crucial, because when the bill finally comes due, it arrives as astronomical property taxes or the total breakdown of basic services. Think of it like a home renovation. If you ignore a leak in the roof for 10 years just to build a new pool, eventually the ceiling is going to cave in and the cost will be 10 times the original fix. In civil engineering, this delayed maintenance is technical debt that stacks up compound interest in the form of destruction, and cities that don't generate real wealth per square foot are, essentially broke, just waiting for the final gasp of federal handouts. If you want to see this in the real world, take a peek at the infrastructure report card from the ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers. They grade the health of cities, and the national average is a real wake-up call. A practical move for you today is to show up at your city council meetings and pull the thread on the ROI return on investment. For new developments, is this new street going to generate enough tax revenue to pay for itself 25 years from now? Having that analytical edge is what separates the average Joe from the man who truly understands the gears that move or jam the world around him. After all, a rotten foundation will eventually bring down even the prettiest facade, and the design of our urban roads is the next breaking point in that structure. Topic 3. The stroad phenomenon. Have you ever noticed how some roads in our cities seem to have an identity crisis? trying to be everything at once and failing miserably at both? This is the phenomenon we call a stroad, a dangerous hybrid between a street and a road. A road should be a high-speed connection between 2 points, while a street is a destination, a place for business and human interaction. When we try to mash the two together, we create a hostile environment where a driver feels like they're on a racetrack, but has to dodge driveway entrances and pedestrians every 30 feet. It's an inefficient design that is a total nightmare for any self-respecting traffic engineer. For a guy who values efficiency and his own time, the stroad is the biggest productivity thief out there. It creates artificial gridlock and is statistically the most dangerous place to drive or walk. It's the equivalent of trying to design a tool that is simultaneously a hammer and a screwdriver. It won't hit a nail with power, and it won't turn a screw with precision. Economically speaking, these paths are incredibly expensive to build and maintain, but they deliver bottom-of-a-barrel value per square foot because nobody wants to spend time in a noisy, ugly, and dangerous place. This drives away quality commerce and kills property value. If you want to spot a stroad today, just look at that main drag in your town with 4 or 5 lanes. Lined with fast food chains and car dealerships, where the speed limit is high but you're hitting a red light every single block.
Ow.
To understand the right alternative, look into the concept of European high streets, or cities like Amsterdam, that separate through traffic from urban life. A quick exercise. Try timing how much life you lose on one of these stroads compared to a real highway. You'll see that the unnecessary complexity of the design is literally burning your gas and your patience. And this inefficiency isn't just physical lags backed by laws that hogtie the potential of our land. Topic 4. Zoning laws and the death of local productivity. Ever wonder why it's so hard to find a cool coffee shop or a small workshop at the end of your block? The answer lies in the rigid zoning laws that dominate the American landscape. Acting like an invisible barrier that stops our neighborhoods from evolving naturally. These laws, often born from good intentions in the past, ended up strangling local productivity by banning commerce and housing from coexisting. For a man who values the entrepreneurial spirit, this is a total wet blanket. Imagine having a killer talent or product but being blocked from opening a small biz in your own garage because of red tape that demands massive parking lots for every square inch you build. This forced separation creates residential deserts that are 100% car dependent for absolutely everything, which sucks the economic life right out of the community. It's like a mechanical engineer being forbidden from optimizing an engine for better efficiency. Forced by law to keep obsolete parts that just create friction and waste energy. In practice, single-use zoning stops organic wealth creation. It forces people to drive long distances to spend their money, lining the pockets of big-box retailers, while the small local producer gets smothered by surreal space requirements. If you want to see how this hits your freedom, look up your city's zoning code and see how many types of businesses are banned in your area. A great example of people pushing back is the YMBY Yes in My Backyard movement, which fights for more flexible and productive cities. The work of organizations like the Mercatus Center on this topic is definitely worth your time, a practical action for you. Keep an eye out for underused buildings in your area that could be thriving small businesses if the law just got out of the way. That realization will show you exactly how much economic potential we're leaving on the table. And all this legislative clunkiness eventually turns into a direct hit on your personal budget. Topic 5. The high cost of sprawl. Ever stop to think that the cost of living in our cities isn't high by accident, but because of a massive design failure? The urban sprawl modeled this infinite horizontal growth imposes what we call an invisible tax on the American man, draining resources that could be going toward your financial freedom or your kids' education. Maintaining miles of asphalt, power grids, and sewer lines to serve just a few homes is a bill that never settles. And you're the one covering the spread through utility fees that keep climbing and taxes that never seem to pay off in quality of life. It's a classic engineering blunder. Over-engineering a system that runs on a tiny load, you're spending a fortune on maintenance for a measly real-world benefit. On top of that, the absolute dependence on cars forced by this design adds a layer of financial fragility that most guys ignore until gas prices or insurance premiums go through the roof. For the man seeking sovereignty over his finances, being forced to maintain 2 or 3 vehicles just for basic daily life is a systemic vulnerability. Imagine if your investment strategy depended on a single variable you couldn't control. Any risk analyst would tell you that you're in a tight spot. Fragile cities pass the cost of their inefficiency straight to the family checkbook, turning the dream of homeownership into a burden of maintaining public infrastructure that the government can't even keep up with anymore. If you want to measure this impact on your life, check out cost of sprawl calculators on urban econ portals, or just look at how much of your property tax goes toward maintaining roads that should have been paid off decades ago. A solid way to take back control is to diversify your mobility options whenever you can and support the development of denser, more productive neighborhoods that bring in more revenue than they cost. Once you realize that your city's fragility is actually your wallet's fragility, you start seeing urbanism not as politics, but as a matter of asset management and financial engineering. That's where the theory meets the road, and the need for change becomes urgent. Conclusion. Now that you've opened your eyes to the structural flaws right under your feet, the question is, are you going to stay a passenger in this fragile system? Or are you going to take the wheel like the man of vision I know you are? Understanding how our cities are designed is the ultimate tool for protecting your assets and making sure the ground you build your life on is solid, not a bureaucratic illusion. I challenge you to step outside today and look at your neighborhood through an engineer's lens, spotting every inefficiency we've talked about here. That shift in perspective is the first step toward a life of true sovereignty. What are you going to do to make sure your community stops burning resources and starts building real prosperity? Drop a comment below with your technical take, because your input is what separates a spectator from a leader. While you're at it, subscribe to the channel now and hit those notifications to make sure you're never blindsided by the system's fragilities again, and keep leveling up on this journey of engineering and freedom.